right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, I want to talk about Hadi Choopan a little bit in this latest physique update that Hadi posted. And really, I wanted to make this the first story because I honestly feel like Hadi doesn't get talked about enough, or at least as much as some of the other guys that are in contention for the Olympia title this year, despite the fact that Hadi is the current reigning and defending Mr. Olympia champion. So he posted kind of an interesting post with some interesting captions. So he posted a physique update, and this was right after the Pittsburgh Pro, where you essentially had every competitor that's really gunning for that title except for Hadi present at that guest posing. Now, the caption of this post says, "Run, go home, run." And then it says, "Go back to the house of playful children," as the on-screen caption there, which maybe is kind of a weird or rough translation of whatever he was trying to say. But I can only imagine that the timing of this being right after the Pittsburgh Pro, this is his way of firing a little bit of a warning shot to those competitors that were at the Pittsburgh Pro that might be gunning for his title later on this year at the Olympia. And we really did see some of the most impressive competitors in Pittsburgh this weekend, and they all looked good. Every single one of them gave us a show to where we could say, okay, maybe Hadi's not safe this year. But honestly, I think a lot of people write Hadi Choopan off just because of the fact that he's a little bit more low-key. He doesn't post as often. He's not as visible on social media. You don't see him doing interviews or podcasts or YouTube videos. You don't see as much from Hadi Choopan. We didn't see him compete as recently as a lot of those guys that just did the Arnold Classic. You really only see Hadi at the Olympia. So for that reason, a lot of people are now talking about Samson Dauda. A lot of people talking about this up-and-comer Derek Lunsford, who kind of came out of nowhere, making his open debut at the Olympia, placing second last year. You've got Nick Walker, obviously. Hunter Labrada was there. All these guys that are phenomenal young bodybuilders and are really, it seems like, growing very quickly in the ranks and just constantly moving up, especially Samson. A lot of people talking about Samson as being a huge threat to the throne, and I can see that now, but I still want to remind people, Hadi Choopan is your current Mr. Olympia, and I don't think he's going to be easy to beat. I really think he doesn't get as much credit as he should because he is so consistent. His conditioning is really, honestly, the standard. I think Hadi Choopan has set the standard for conditioning at the Olympia over the last couple of years. And now that he's the title holder, the judges have said, this is the standard of conditioning. This is what you have to beat if you want to be Mr. Olympia. And while a lot of these guys are fantastic, it's not going to be easy to match Hadi's conditioning. He's very consistent. It's a very low possibility that he's going to be off, or probability, I should say, a low probability that he's going to be off. He's working with Hani Rambod, and him and Derek, who are both working with Hani, were the top two. So I really don't think he's going to miss this year, and I don't think he's going to leave the door open. He might leave a little crack where maybe these guys can see some hope, but he's not going to leave the door wide open. He's very consistent year to year. He's always in really good shape, and now that he's the standard, I don't think it's going to be an easy win for one of these new guys to come and beat him. That being said, these guys look crazy at the Pittsburgh Pro. Specifically, I want to talk about in the next story here, Samson Dauda. Samson Dauda really impressed me the most at that Pittsburgh Pro guest posing, just from a standpoint of sheer size. We talk about these numbers with Samson Dauda and the fact that in the offseason last year he got as heavy as, I believe it was 336 pounds. He's one of the only bodybuilders right now that's 300-plus pounds in the offseason and still has, really separated abs. His conditioning still looks pretty good for that weight. Now, he posted an update after the Pittsburgh Pro where he says he weighs 322 pounds, 146.1 kilos. And he shows himself weighing himself. So that's what he weighed Friday morning before flying out to Pittsburgh, according to this post. So when we saw this massive Samson Dauda on stage, that was his weight. And I think there's a chance that possibly he was as heavy, if not heavier, than Big Ramy. You don't see Ramy, at least not lately, getting to these crazy off-season weights of like 350-plus pounds like he did back in really his heyday. And when I say that I think Samson looked really big next to Ramy at this guest posing, we didn't see the Ramy that we saw in like 2014, 2015 at the Pittsburgh Pro guest posing where he was stealing the show and everyone was like, wow, look at this freak that's just way bigger than everybody else. That's not what we saw. We saw a guy stand next to Ramy, Samson Dauda, that was taller, maybe as heavy, to me looked a lot fuller, looked a lot rounder, and really held his own next to Ramy, to the point where I don't think Ramy looked like this crazy show-stopping mass monster that we usually see from him at guest posings like this, where he does tend to steal the show at guest posings. So that's why I was so impressed by Samson, is because at that weight and at that size, with his structure and his frame, he just really looked really dominant and commanding on stage, even next to Ramy, Nick, Derek, Hunter. And if you look at the rapid improvements that Samson has been able to make over the past year and a half or so, you wonder if he comes into the Olympia significantly bigger than he was at the Arnold with better conditioning, he's going to be very dangerous. And now that we've really gotten that confirmation from the judges that his physique is there, it's good enough to win a show like the Arnold Classic now, I think that's really the biggest sign that Samson's time is coming. Whether or not he's going to be able to be top 3 or take that title from Hadi, I think is another conversation as we watch these guys develop into the Olympia. But I think that threat is real from Samson. And I personally am becoming a little bit more of a believer in the Samson Dauda hype right now, that he can be a top 3 Olympian or possibly a Mr. Olympia champion. I'm starting to see that now, looking at him in a guest posing of this caliber with these kind of guys, and him looking as impressive as he did. Even, we just saw him win the Arnold Classic, so obviously that's a whole lot more confirmation. But seeing him here, he just really, to me, stole that show. He was really the standout of that guest posing for me. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Now, next up in the news, we got confirmation from Hassan Mostafa that he is going to be competing in the Toronto Pro. So we knew he was going to be doing a show here in the near future. That show is about a month away now. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see Hassan compete at the Olympia because he had this medical issue kind of creep up on him that he had to address. He's addressed it. He's healthy. He's back into competing. And the updates that we've seen so far, he looks like he's back to full form. So now we know that both Hassan and Ian Valliere are doing that Toronto Pro, and I think Hassan's going to give Ian a tough time. It's not going to be an easy victory for Ian, and I think Hassan is going to really make it a battle for him. In the last year and a half or so, again, we've really seen Hassan kind of come into his own, and we've seen him be very competitive at some of the shows that he's done recently, bringing some of the best conditioning that we've seen him bring arguably in his career over the last year. And like I mentioned a minute ago, unfortunately, we didn't get to see how he would have done at the Olympia. But I think a guy like Ian is a very solid test for a guy like Hassan. Ian has been 7th at the Olympia the past 2 consecutive years before this year, even though in 2022 he was outside of the top 10. He's a top Olympian. He's no slouch. He is a guy that is going to be very difficult to beat. And if Hassan were able to beat somebody like Ian Valliere, that would be a very big step forward in his career. So that's going to be an interesting battle to watch at the Toronto Pro and see if Hassan is able to overcome that obstacle in Ian Valliere, or if Ian Valliere is able to slam the door shut and earn his Olympia qualification and probably go on to compete a few more times and take some qualifications from some people like he's done in the past, which I actually have no problem with. I really like that competitive spirit, and I like to see a guy that likes to compete. Now, next up in the news, we got to see another glimpse of how Breon is looking in this new, bigger version of his physique as he continues to kind of grow into that 212 division. He did a guest posing at the NPC Motherload this past weekend, where I think he actually looked really impressive. I like seeing a bigger version of Breon. We talked about how that weight constraint of having to meet that weight cap for classic physique might have been something that held Breon back a little bit, and now we're seeing kind of a fully sized, filled out, full version of Breon at this guest posing, like I said, as he kind of transitions into that division. And I like somebody with a structure and flow like Breon, with more size on his frame, but still that question remains, how competitive will he be in this current crop of 212 guys? 'Cause I think we have a really competitive 212 division right now. And like I said, Breon came from 212 in the first place, where while he was there, he hadn't won a pro show in 212. So now at 43, with these years of experience in classic physique under his belt, how is that going to translate into 212? And can he potentially win shows, get to the 212 Olympia? Again, we don't really know. It's kind of this gray area of, since he's won the classic physique Olympia, would he be able to just hop in the 212 Olympia without having to qualify? I don't think there's really a rule for that kind of crossover yet, so that could be another option. If he wants to go straight to the Olympia, maybe they let him. And honestly, maybe they should. That's a conversation maybe you guys should have in the comments down below, is do you think if you win the Olympia in one category, be it 212, classic physique, open bodybuilding, we can even throw men's physique in there, I guess, should that qualify you to cross-compete in the Olympia in another division, having won the title in your specific division? Or should it just be a special invite type of thing like we saw with Derek Lunsford? That's how he was able to compete at the Olympia in 2022 and take a top 2 spot. So that seemed to be the right call to just let Derek go ahead and move on up and compete in Open. Because really the only rule that we've established so far is this year they said they wouldn't let Sean Clarita do both 212 and Opens. That's really the only established rule they have as far as crossover competition across divisions. But that's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you have not subscribed yet already, all that good stuff. And as always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.